Hey guys, Zane here with another one-take review, and today I want to talk about the new Rammstein album, Zeit. Zeit is the latest album from German metal legends Rammstein, whose own unique take on the industrial influence side of metal has made them not only the most popular metal band out of Germany, but just one of the most popular metal bands in the world. You could even make a very legitimate argument that they are not only the most popular modern rock band to come out of Germany, but maybe the most popular rock band of all of Germany's history. I deeply apologize to the Scorpions, but I don't know. Rammstein might have them beat at this point. However, a lot of Rammstein fans seem to think that the last couple of efforts from the band have kind of seen them fall off in terms of quality, myself included. And while I won't say that Zeit is going to please everybody, as it doesn't exactly please me, I do think that this will at least pose as a sort of opposition to that mindset, at least prove some of the naysayers wrong. However, one of the naysayers being proven wrong is not me. Rammstein's latest effort sees the band work towards a bit more of a gothic tone, a more gothic metal style that pairs with their industrial metal that they've pre-established on pretty much every album that they've released before. And gothic metal is something the band have definitely worked within the realm of before, as the mid-2000s was actually a major point where Rammstein as a band were making kind of gothic sounds. That being said, Zeit sees Rammstein embrace those sounds harder than they ever have. While they maintain their epic riffs and their sinister tones and epic explosions of noise, the kind of style and overall compositional aspects of Zeit as an album are definitely more cold and isolated than what many Rammstein fans may expect from the band at this point. This shock to the system only really deepens in effectiveness when you consider the fact that their 2019 comeback album, which was either untitled or self-titled depending on who you ask, was arguably their most directly heavy in a long time, and arguably one of Rammstein's more straightforward records in terms of actual power. However, Rammstein sort of pretty smoothly embraced the sound of gothic metal overall, and the only reason that they ever really trip up is the simple fact that, well, frankly, some of the songs here are just downright boring. A lot of the more gloomy tracks on Zeit actually end up dragging it down more than lifting it up and raising its status as a subgenre change for Rammstein, as many songs here feel very overblown, but not on purpose, just very over the top and trying so hard to be emotional that they come across as accidentally corny. Now, corny metal can be actually a very fun and enjoyable thing, it just so happens that when Rammstein does it, it's not. This also carries over to some of the more 100% industrial influence tracks as well that sort of stray away from that gothicism, as the same thing happens there, frankly. I mean, they just try to strive for a stab at epic power and a sense of anthemic sounds and whatnot, and it just, frankly, just doesn't work out. Rammstein have always been a fairly tongue-in-cheek band deep down, even if on the surface they don't necessarily seem like it, and that's what's a lot of the appeal to their post-Mutter work, in my opinion at least. For me, that's just kind of the appeal. They're not exactly totally self-aware, they're not a comedic band by any means, but at the same time, the topics of songs that they choose to talk about, of cannibalism and death and violence, the way that they present themselves at their live shows and in their music videos, it just always feels like there's a sense of they know what they're doing, and that's unfortunately lost here. They lose that sly sense of humor, that very subtle sense of humor that sometimes just frankly isn't there, by replacing it with that aforementioned gloom. And while Rammstein definitely do slide into this new sound, this change in subgenre and change in tone very well, I just think that it's not as interesting or engaging or even as endearing as their previous sound. The band are instrumentally solid on Zeit, with really the only major change in actual performance work here being the fact that vocalist Till Lindemann is just not quite as good as he once was, in my opinion. I don't know if it's just poor mixing on this record in particular, but I had the same thing to say about the last album as well, so I just frankly don't think he has as much punch in his voice as what he used to be able to bring to the table years ago, which is understandable, but it's something that does drag down the rest of the band nonetheless. Beyond that, Rammstein just kind of recycle and rinse and repeat ideas that they've presented on previous works, while just kind of tossing a gothic bedsheet over them sometimes. Sometimes it even just feels like they don't even really want to go in this gothic direction. It feels kind of limp, and while it's done well enough for what it is, it doesn't really feel like they're trying to take it to its fullest extent. Although Rammstein, of all bands, were definitely not who I thought I would ever say this about, this record kind of feels like it was just made to make a quick buck, but also change things up a little bit so you could at least enjoy it a bit more in terms of difference within the artist's discography. While I will admit that there are a number of smaller details here that do actually pique my interest, such as the more synth-flavored numbers and whatnot, nothing is really developed beyond their first introduction into the universe of Zeit, which is a real shame. It's never a good thing for a band's instrumentation on a record to make you want to go back to their older releases and their older albums instead of being excited for what they're going to do next, but that's exactly what Zeit does. I'd rather just go listen to the late 90s and early 2000s material than just listen to this record again. But overall, if I'm being honest, Zeit's fine. While I know that I have been mostly negative within this review, I actually did genuinely enjoy listening to this record. My main issue with both Zeit as an album and Rammstein as a band is that when they want to take a different step in a different direction, they either don't go the full distance with the experimentalism, which just doesn't work, or they fall flat on their face trying to do something that just doesn't suit them. But either way, I still do think that the gothic metal influences are interesting here. They just need to be expanded upon more. They really just fail to just bring to the table the entirety of what could be done with that, and as it stands, I do think that a lot of the very gothic numbers fall flat here because of the fact that they just kind of feel half-hearted, so either the band need to go back to what they started doing, just straight up, just industrial metal, or continue to embrace those influences of gothicism as hard as they possibly can, because either way, this isn't a great album, but still, it's a fine listen. If you're a Rammstein fan, I still recommend it. It's definitely them, that's for sure. But still, 3 stars out of 5, not bad by any means, and I will admit there were some interesting things here. Some of those synths that they used were definitely interesting, and the auto-tune that was occasionally used was very unexpected, but interesting, I will say that. But still, nonetheless, 3 stars out of 5, and with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.